Everything you learned in history class was a lie. Well, maybe not everything, but they skipped the best parts. Introducing Stupiracy, where stupidity meets conspiracy. Ever heard of the Olympic marathon that nearly killed its runners? Or the time a pope put another pope's corpse on trial? Join me, Scott Rizzuto, and Tim McKernan as we uncover the most outrageous historical moments and mind-blowing conspiracies you won't believe actually happened. Tune into Stupiracy for your weekly dose of historical absurdity. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, history is dumb, but laughing at it is smart.
Or visit 1-800-GotJunk.com.
And now, live from the TCL broadcast studios, it's Joe Souchere and Patrick Royce with Sports Talk.
The mayor not here today. Jay Cole's filling in and has stuck around. So I didn't get the response I wanted to this earlier, I think, this week. So I'm going to run this past you. I think this is one of the greatest documents I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is Ike announcing that the war is over. Okay?
Yep. Eisenhower.
In a message.
Yep.
And in the message at the top, it says...
And now, which war, by the way?
Two.
Okay.
Well, Ike wasn't... Ike
he wasn't president yet.
He might have been in one, but he was calling the shots in two. You know, he's the supreme commander.
Because wasn't he calling the shots in the Korean, I thought? No?
No. Hell, he was almost president.
Was he?
That was MacArthur.
That was
and
MacArthur?
Then we brought him home.
All right.
Remember, we fired him because he wanted to invade China.
Not a bad idea.
He had big plans. Yeah. So, SHAEF forward, it says on the top. So I had to look up SHAEF, S-H-A-E-F. The other day when I read it, I hadn't looked it up. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. That's what that stands. Yeah. Forward. That means he's sending it out to the
big shots.
The big shots out who are out with the fellas.
Yep.
Out with the fellas. Staff message control. Outgoing message, top secret, urgent. 2. AGWAR for Combined Chiefs of Staff. So I had to look up AGWAR.
Yeah.
Adjutant General, War Department, Chiefs of Staff. And AMSO for British Chiefs of Staff. So I had to look that up. Air Ministry Special Signals Office, AMSO. That's her name. From SHAEF forward, and it says signed Eisenhower, even though he doesn't sign it. It just says signed Eisenhower. And then there's a little coding for the messages. And then it is the time, and it was sent out, 3:55, local time, wherever he's sending it from. This is the message he sends out. The mission of this Allied force was fulfilled at 2:41 local time, May 7th, 1945, Eisenhower.
That's it.
That's the message.
So
that's the message.
We're left with, it's got to be.
It's over.
Right.
He's saying it's over, but what I'm saying is
no big deal.
His message is, fellas,
it's over.
You did it.
Yeah.
Now go home.
Go home.
Yeah, it's fine. The mission of this Allied force, and I said, I saw this on Twitter originally, and I said, man, I wish I'd seen this 40 years ago. I wouldn't have wasted all my years not getting to the point. You know? There's a guy, he got to the point, didn't he?
He did.
The mission of this Allied force was fulfilled at 2:41 local time, May 7th, 1945. That's
almost understated.
Yes,
almost understated.
Congratulations.
Not we whipped their ass.
not we beat those hated Huns. Nothing like that. I think it's just fantastic. And somebody sent that out.
That is pretty good. And what I really like is how long would this have taken you if you had not had the Google to look that stuff up?
Well,
how do you look that up?
It was on Twitter.
Oh, it was?
There's a guy out there,
pretty good.
Michael Buchloss or something, who sends out a lot of old military documents and stuff. But that one really caught my attention because, and then the Ike speech, when
that's cool.
You know how many troops we had going at these fellas? 5 million between all the between all the
overseas
allied,
to the east, into Europe and the Pacific.
Everybody who was on our side.
So $5 million from start to finish. We didn't have $5 million.
I think maybe $5 million in Europe. I'm not sure.
Wow.
But that counts everybody, Britain and
Right.
Free French and all our other Canadians and Australians and everybody else.
Right, because I could see if you're talking the Pacific Rim as well as Europe.
Maybe it is. I just heard his speech about it.
But that is incredible.
The speech I heard him giving a day later, May 8th, when it became, when they signed said $5 million. And, we were still fighting in Japan.
Correct.
And we weren't done. And so I think it was $5 million to free Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And that was my next question for you, because I kind of know my history pretty well with this, but I thought, okay, so this went out before the signing on the ship.
They had surrendered.
Right.
They had surrendered. They had already agreed to an unconditional surrender.
And then the next day was more circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Because they apparently when the Ruskies were about 25 feet from Berlin, they started saying, "Well, we'll surrender under these conditions" on about May 6th. And the response from Eisenhower was, "No, you'll surrender with no conditions, and we'll tell you
what's going to happen.
We'll tell you what's going to happen." And they said,
"That's pretty cool."
Okay, now the Russians are here. Now we'll give her up.
And and I'm not trying to diminish things that have happened in Afghanistan and Iraq because my son fought there.
Yeah, right.
But when you consider the numbers you just mentioned to the things we deal with now, that's unbelievable.
When
really.
you consider the hole you were in when you started as far as armaments and everything were concerned, I mean, the Germans been planning this for a while. We were just sitting around on our hands saying, we beat them once.
Not only planning it, but executing it for a while.
Now, you probably didn't see the blog I wrote for the Star Tribune about the possible genesis of my last name.
No, wait.
There was...
yes, I did.
Yes,
the
Reuss,
I did.
The Reuss. It all started with the Reuss River. In Switzerland.
Yep.
And it pretty soon got me to the House of Reuss in Germany, which
also includes a clothing line.
Yes, the House of Reuss in Germany. There were three branches: the elder, the middle, and the younger. And the middle ran out. They didn't have any more sons. They had no more. They ran out. So that one petered out. Right. But the elder, Aunt Hermine, I call her, married Kaiser Wilhelm II.
Yes.
And basically,
Kaiser Wilhelm II.
And Hermine married the Kaiser, who started World War I, which basically led to World War II.
Yes. So you have ties.
Perhaps.
No, there's no.
Perhaps, because that might not even be the family. But there was a guy connected there named Thur Rusi with an E on the end of it. And the name seems to have come from that cruise
from the Kaiser Wilhelm.
So as I said on the blog, if I'm ever over there and I run into a guy named Roos, I'm not going to ask him if he's got any photos left over of Aunt Hermione's wedding to the Kaiser.
It's interesting you should say all this, and I do remember this because it's interesting. My on my mom's side Italian. My father, obviously, Kolls, is German. That's a German. The name when they came was Koltz, Koltz.
Okay,
but they did not want
to sound that German. Huh?
They didn't want to sound that German. Yeah. And my grandfather, to this day, I'll never forget. He was a very proud German. Is interesting enough. Guess what? As a young boy through his teen years, his dog's name. Kaiser.
Oh, really?
After Kaiser Wilhelm.
Kaiser Wilhelm. Wow.
I said to Grandpa as I grew up and understood world history, I said, "Grandpa, that was ballsy."
Well, I have relatives who have decided we're French, and because it's got a French spelling to it, and they call themselves Rousset.
Oh.
Because it's from that Alsace-Lorraine area.
I like Ricey better than Rousset.
Well, here's the deal. A guy named Otto Ricey came over in the 1880s or something, and he was an undertaker. and a furniture guy, but like all of them.
They had the part-time gig, yes. Yeah.
And he was an undertaker, and the legend is he ended up in a fully German place. Mm-hmm. And they weren't going to let some damn Frenchman bury him, so he became ricey.
For business, good commerce.
He became a good trout, as we used to say.
You don't let that get in the way of good commerce. That's very smart.
No,
I understand completely.
Yes. All righty. We'll be back. I got another historical note to come up with in honor of Kenny Olson.
Oh, nice. Can't wait for that.
All right, Kenny. Why were we talking about Utah the other day? I don't know. Remember that?
Yeah.
And you brought up, you said to whoever
Promontory
it was.
Point.
Yeah, Promontory. You said it was up by Promontory. Well, you're right. On this day, May 10th, 1869, the presidents of the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroads meet in, is it Promontory?
Yeah. Promontory,
Utah, to drive a ceremonial last spike into a rail line that connects their railroads. This made the transcontinental railroad travel possible for the first time in U.S. history. Where is that? You're
Promontory?
A Utah guy.
It's just
north of the lake.
It's north of Salt Lake, and it's kind of
just south of Idaho.
Yeah, it's sort of north and a little bit more toward the west of Salt Lake,
west of Bear River.
Yes. Oh, very nice. Bear Lake and Bear River up there.
Yeah.
Now,
Kenny knows Utah.
I saw a documentary on this once, Blazing Saddles. Wasn't
that was it?
Wasn't that? Weren't they working on the Transcontinental Railroad?
That was a documentary based loosely on fact.
Who is the generic but really good history writer that passed away some years ago? What's his name? He wrote a bunch of World War II books.
Stephen Ambrose.
Yes, Ambrose wrote a really good book about the building of that railroad that I've actually read a couple of times. And I geek out, and I've stopped at certain points where they, built that railroad. Mm-hmm. And actually, in July, we're going to be at Promontory.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Who had the tough duty? Where did they start from on the east? Where did it?
The east wasn't nearly as hard as the west.
But they had to go over the Rockies, though.
Yeah, they did to a degree, but with the crew that started, was it the Central Pacific that started? No, it wasn't the Central.
They started in the Midwest.
The Union.
Where did they start? Chicago?
I don't even know.
Oh, they started down around north of St. Louis.
I was going to say, I thought it was Missouri somewhere.
Yeah. They started on the west side of the Missouri River because crossing the river was a big deal.
When we went to the Rockies, did we go through them or around up above them?
We went through South Pass, which is lower Wyoming, which is like a 20-mile wide opening in the mountains that's relatively flat. But the big job,
they still had to get to that elevation.
The big job, though, was coming up from San Francisco.
Correct.
And that's where the Chinese workers came into play. And they didn't want to hire the Chinese workers, but they could not keep the white guys employed because it was so tough.
Right.
And that entire section from the West Coast all the way to Utah ended up being built by Chinese workers.
It's true.
And they were amazing.
Luckily, they had good foremen like Slim Pickens to get her rolling there.
You can't base your history on
yes, we can. Most of the world wouldn't even know about it if it weren't for that.
But I always have this vision of them getting about 10 miles apart and somebody saying, "Oh crap,
and you always knew
we're going to have to do. We're going to have to make a big turn."
Yeah, we're off just a bit.
You at least knew that you were always safe because, as we heard from the movie, the sheriff was always near.
Right?
Yeah, he was nearby.
Yeah. Well, they still have a big to-do celebration in Utah.
Really? To celebrate it?
Yeah,
well, they should.
celebrate it.
What the heck?
There's a lot of arguing going on because is it Joseph Smith? he wanted that line to go down through Salt Lake City, and they went north of it. So then he had to build his own spur line.
That would be the old Brigham Young.
Brigham Young
Was the guy, because Joseph got tied up with the salamander.
Joseph
was having the hallucinations, so Brigham took over, and it was Brigham who wanted to do that.
Right. Yeah. So he had to build his own spur line. It's a fascinating story.
It really, yeah.
And boy, did they milk the government. Congratulations to that crew on screwing the government at a monumental level. Patrick, they could have built that baby straight right through Nebraska, but they made her swing back and forth, and because they got paid by the mile. Yep. So why not hang a right here and go up 10 miles?
It wasn't by the hour; it was by the mile.
And
That's
hang
exactly
a left,
right.
and
they have a big old party out there all the time to celebrate that, along with the pioneer days when the Mormons came down through the valley.
The big problem, of course, is when you would occasionally run into quicksand and you might lose a hand car.
What are you going to do?
Damn, we almost lost a $400 hand car.
It's like having a conversation about history with Rookie.
Or music.
You know what is amazing about that movie? I don't think you could make it today, could you?
No. Nor could you run All in the Family. None of that stuff.
It was on the other night, and it was on commercial TV, and you couldn't watch it because everything's bleeped out. Yeah.
Hey, Kolls, I got another nugget for you with your expedition to my neck of the woods.
Yeah, Carver, the yellow brick.
Bert says, Kolls, on either side of Highway 41 north of the old 212, which is now 61, which is where the Chaska Curling Club now is.
Yeah.
There are two small bodies of water where they use to dig the clay for the Chaska bricks that we talked about earlier.
So now I have my answer. It's because it was yellow clay.
That's right. That's why all the buildings out there are yellow in substance.
They're the only ones in Minnesota.
I give MnDOT a lot of trouble.
That is cool.
I give MnDOT a lot of heat, but 212 is the greatest highway improvement in the history of the United States of America.
It's pretty amazing.
You used to have to stop every 12 seconds, and now you don't have to stop till Norwood.
Right.
That's right. It's unbelievable. Man, they did a good job with that one.
I was just perplexed as to why all the bricks were yellow, and now I got my answer. Chaska and Carver, yellow bricks, nothing else. I'm like, why are they? Every other town's got red brick except there. Now we know. Yellow clay. Who would have known?
That's good. I didn't know. I didn't notice they had all yellow bricks.
Yellow.
Jay made a voyage out there to do a story.
Yeah.
And what was it? What was the nugget you had?
The last execution. Well, I should say the last legal execution in Minnesota, right in downtown Chaska on Main Street. Carver, downtown
Really?
Carver. They hung him high in 1901. He had he was a 34-year-old saloon and hotel worker. He was going after an 18-year-old lass at the other hotel who also worked at this hotel. And she rebuffed him. He killed her.
Wow.
And they they hanged him in 1901 in downtown Carver.
Nothing wrong
Last
with that.
legal hanging in Minnesota.
That's really.
Right down there in Carver.
Now it's a park where my kids play.
Right, it's a park where the kids play, and they got a little. Hey, right here, kids, is where they hang somebody.
Hanging off a tree?
No, that's long gone.
We don't commemorate that in any way.
No,
I wouldn't think.
No, it's just part of the little. When you go up and read about the different buildings,
History.
There's a little blurb about it.
So when did we officially end the capital punishment then?
1901 was the last one, so it had to be 02, 03, right? Right after
maybe
they
we just didn't do it.
They said right after that hanging, that was the last legal hanging in Minnesota.
So someone went, this isn't all right. They kind of came to the conclusion that maybe that wasn't just. Is that kind of the deal?
I think it was that and doing it right down on Old Main Street. They did
Cruel
it right.
and unusual punishment, they decided.
And they'd call everybody
sometimes
out.
you wonder.
They'd call everybody, come on out of the saloons, and
sure.
He was hanged right there on Main Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they were hanging him in blazing saddles.
Right. That's exactly right.
Even the horse. That was the best part. I couldn't possibly squeeze him in until Tuesday. I probably shouldn't get my Western history from blazing saddles.
Right.
All righty. We'll see what Brucey's up to.
Sports Talk will be back, and said Bruce Vail is out in his New Jersey cubbyhole, and he's brought to us by Owatonna's own Federated Insurance, and he's got the Your Money Now report.
And we have pretty good news today. Stocks did rally, pushing the Dow Jones Industrial Average back into positive territory for the year by 20 whole points. The Dow gained 197 points today, closing at 24,739. The Nasdaq Composite gained 65 points, and the S&P 500 advanced 25. The rate of layoffs in the U.S. stuck near a 49-year low in early May, another signal that an ultra-tight labor market shows no sign of softening. The Labor Department said initial jobless claims were unchanged at 211,000 last week, while the more stable monthly average of claims fell by 5,500, touching the lowest level since December of 1969. Apple and Goldman Sachs are teaming up to launch a new joint credit card that will carry the Apple Pay brand. People familiar with the plan said Apple will replace its long-standing rewards card partnership with Barclays. As new iPhone sales growth slows, Apple is focusing on services like mobile payments and App Store sales. Goldman, meanwhile, is pushing into consumer banking to compensate for a slump in securities trading. I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now on 1500 ESPN.
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. We will let you go and check traffic here. And this report sponsored by Credit Karma. We'll start with westbound 694. She's already bumper to bumper, 35W over to 100, approaching the 15-minute mark and showing no signs of easing. If you're traveling between the downtowns, westbound 94 at 15 minutes, eastbound between 14. Oh, and that reminds me, up in, would it be Lower Brooklyn Center, North Minneapolis, we have a lumber truck tip over. It looks like he lost it coming off 53rd Avenue and turning onto the ramp.
.com.
Hey, Johnny.
Yeah.
Do you have this in your sports update?
What's that?
Vladimir Putin scored 5 goals in an exhibition hockey game.
I don't have
Russian
that.
President Vladimir Putin scored 5 goals in what has become an annual tradition. Well, how about just a tradition? Given ample airtime on state TV, Putin played on a Legends of Hockey team alongside big names of the past, such as Pavel Bure. But he put himself with the good pros, and they're playing a bunch of amateurs, and he scored 5 goals. But a couple of years ago, he scored 6 or 7.
He scored. He's on the decline. He had 7 in 2017.
How old is he? Do you know?
65.
But I bet they give him a lot of room on the ice.
I don't think he goes into the corners.
No.
Or nobody goes into the corners with him.
If he wants to go into the corner, he's by himself.
Some guy who doesn't know better just puts him into the boards.
Yeah.
It's partly cloudy and 60 degrees. Twins Angels tonight on the West Coast. Jose Barrios for the Twins. Garrett Richards for the Angels. Twins game back in the American League Central.
Garrett Richards has pretty good numbers this year, even though when I watched him pitch, was it a week ago, Sunday, he didn't get out of the first inning. He was horrible. He had one horrible start. But
he's 4-1. Yep.
He's got pretty good stuff.
Yep. At the Players,
the Twins. We don't know about Buxton yet, right?
No. Last I heard was they were hoping this weekend, but that was yesterday.
Okay.
I heard that.
Right.
So.
If the Twins make the playoffs, can they take the Yankees and the Red Sox?
Nope.
Okay, just checking. Checking.
Yankees
I just wanted to know.
Yankees are going to win 105 minimum.
Wasn't much hesitation there, was there, Jay?
No, it's okay. Never mind.
I did catch the end of that Yankee-Boston game last night, and I really don't like the closer for Boston, so I was very happy with the results of that ball game.
What do you not like about
I
it?
hate the bird thing, whatever the hell.
The chicken wing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Reavers both.
It drives me nuts.
Drives me
Quit being a pompous.
What the hell are you talking about?
He does
He
those
holds his
stares.
arm like
I'm going to look at you because I'm so
No,
intimidating.
he holds his arm out like this.
Oh.
It's just a habit.
Oh.
But these nincompoops think it means something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a showboat.
Now he's got,
Glad to see him get
he's
his
got
butt
the big
kicked.
red beard now, too.
He's got a gigantic beard last night. I
Yes.
was surprised to see that. At the Players, we got
None
a lot
of these guys earn these beards, by the way, either. Used to be you had to have 5 chainsaws to have a beard like that.
Now you just tape them on, right? Velcro them on.
Slap them on the way out the door.
Now you just drink craft beer. You can have one. At the Players, a lot of folks tied at 6 under. Webb Simpson, Dustin Johnson, Alex Noren, they're all done for the day. And Chesson Hadley's at 6 under.
Chesson.
He's only through 14.
What a name.
Well, that does sound like he should have been in Caddyshack.
It really does.
Was that could have been the name of the Chevy Chase character. Chesson Hadley.
News notes from today. Federal prosecutors say a 25-year-old Minnesota mother of two is the leader of one of the biggest methamphetamine trafficking cells the state has ever seen.
Good for her.
It's an incredible story.
Rags to riches stories.
160 pounds of meth.
Wow. She's an entrepreneur, Kenny? Is that what you're saying?
The U.S. government said the best ever.
Attorney Gary Wolf. Attorney Gary Wolf says his client, Macarena Perez, is adamant about fighting the allegations.
Yeah.
Wolf has successfully lobbied against federal detention, and Perez may get early release under GPS monitoring while she waits for trial. Prosecutors, though, fear she may escape prosecution if she's released. Wolf says Perez was arrested in April at the U.S.-Mexico border during a shopping trip. She was charged nearly 2 years ago in a sealed indictment that used info from several informants whose identities are protected by the government. The charges are linked to a May 2016 raid of a Brooklyn Center house where authorities found 140 pounds of meth.
Now, wait a minute. She was already trying to break back into Mexico, but we still let her.
Yes,
we still let her go.
Right. That's what I read that story earlier, so I don't get this. She's got a pipeline to the cartels in Mexico, but we don't think she's going there. She's staying right here. Imagine the neighbors in Brooklyn Center at that house, what they had to be thinking, when they kept bringing the suitcases in.
Is it anything out of the usual from up there? I mean, have you listened to the scanner? It's
160 pounds, maybe.
It's grim up there, man.
How do they weigh it?
Well, it's all wrapped in those plastics, so they probably just put it on the old.
What is meth?
Scale.
What is meth in its form before it gives you a kick?
It looks like cocaine a little bit.
Powder.
Yeah.
Is it powder?
Yeah, they can liquefy it. But
it looks like it, but it's a man-made. It's all chemical. There's nothing natural.
And they can liquefy it.
Pat, the way that they weigh it is, kind of like when I have to weigh my kid. I have to hold my kid on the scale, and then I step on it, and then they subtract the difference. Kind of the same deal.
The Minnesota.
I should have watched Breaking Bad more. I would have known.
Yeah, you'd know more
meth.
if you watch Breaking Bad.
It's another documentary.
Somebody attached that story with the guy. Help me with the actor's name. The
Cranston.
Bryan Cranston, and said this is why we need to pay teachers more.
Yes, yeah.
That was pretty
somebody
funny.
had a sign at the protest. Reason A why we should pay teachers more money. They had a picture of Bryan Cranston.
That's funny. The Minnesota Department of Health is warning people of a spoofing attack in which callers are posing as the department and asking for your personal information. According to a press release, the call...
If you're that dumb...
You deserve it.
The calls appear to come from MDH's main phone line, 651-201-5700, and callers are asking for personal and business info, including credit card numbers. The health department says they did send out automated calls to restaurants this week regarding the E. coli outbreak with romaine lettuce reaching Minnesota. However, the department says it never asked for any personal information. The MDH also advises anyone who falls victim to identity theft to contact his or her local police department.
You know what I have discovered since I broke into the 70 age group? You get a lot more of those calls of trying to convince you to do something very stupid as far as giving out your information.
Hey, dummy,
Yes.
I've got an offer for you.
Are you senile yet? So why don't they just ask you? Yeah, and you say, yeah, I am. Okay.
What year is it in your world, sir?
Do you know your social security number? Yes. Prove it.
Hey, before I leave though today, John,
Yeah?
you did promise me that you were going to update the
I did? What did I do?
the orgy effort in Las Vegas with Kenny here.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah. Have you not heard what's happening in Vegas? World record for
let me find the story. I was saving it for 340, but you're leaving.
We thought
probably,
you
huh?
might be a personal on-site correspondent for this thing here.
Here we go. Hundreds of sex enthusiasts
There are no other kind other than sex
are
enthusiasts.
set to descend on Las Vegas in a bid to break the record for the world's biggest ever orgy.
Wow, now the Golden Knights have some competition out there.
Wait till you hear what the record is.
Well, they want more than 1,000 people for this to join the event in Nevada next month. Participants can either be with
Is there a weight limit?
Yeah, what do you see, Kenny? Who do you see walking around?
I actually do an imitation of Judd Zulgad at an orgy. This is a newspaper, okay? And now I don't know if you can see me. This is Judd at an orgy.
Just casually glancing over, then back.
He's studying his newspaper, occasionally glancing over at the action.
You got to see who's on the fourth line for Winnipeg.
That's Judd at an orgy.
Well, they're shooting for 1,000 people at this.
Wow.
And I said, how do you keep track of such?
There's a much bigger.
I wonder who
How
has
do we know?
Who do you suppose has the cleanup contract?
You know, the thing about Judd, though, is Judd, we see the sports crazed Judd here.
Yes.
But
We don't know the sex crazed Judd.
No, but when he gets full of beer, and I've only seen it a few times, he gets the pie eyes, man. He gets he could never say no. I haven't been drinking. He gets the all right.
Don can read him right away.
Judd's had a few.
I was with Judd at a station event, and he looked at me and he said, I gotta, with his eyes closed, and said, I gotta call the wife for a ride home. And I said, I want to be around when that call happens.
Well, yeah, he's an Uber guy.
But the world record is 500, right?
That's
John?
that's correct.
500.
How do we know?
It was set in Japan.
Not times, people. It's not times.
500 people.
The Japan's got it. The Japanese have an advantage, though. They're smaller.
So they can fit more in the room.
Yes, they have an unfair advantage.
Fewer beds.
Yes.
The Vegas deal. And I don't know if this is fair. The tickets cost $200 for a couple.
Oh, my.
For attendance?
You got to pay to get in.
$25 for a single woman.
Oh.
And all
How about to watch?
Well, Patrick, all unescorted males are banned from the event, so you can't just show up and
The
watch.
problem is we've been at photo shoots with Royce before. He always takes over and starts directing the action. No, you stand. You stand.
You got to be useful. All right, you got to make yourself useful. Otherwise, you have an escort. Let me see. You got an escort. Get out of here. Go. Let's see you later. You speak? Are you German? No Germans. Germans are out with the bellies.
Germans are out.
Yes, take it from Heinrich. You don't want the Germans hanging around this thing right now.
I'm going to get the Kaiser in here.
I got a Diet Coke over here. I'm hungry. Yes, sir. Kenny, we will throw Kolls, gentlemen. I mean, Johnny will throw Kolls out of here, and we'll come back and try to get things under control. Anybody else? I think we're all done here. Let's close the doors.
Story about
Watch your levels.
Yes.
As high as it goes, bro.
Dr. Dre, D-R-E, right? Dr. Dre, the hip hopper.
But I don't think he's licensed.
He's lost a 3-year trademark battle with a gynecologist and sexpert called Dr. Dre, D-R-A-I. The rapper, whose real name is Andre Young, objected to the trademark application of the doctor, whose nickname is spelled differently but sounds the same as the music producers. Dr. Dreon Birch, who has written books like 20 Things You May Not Know About the Vagina, goes by a shortened version of his name.
Wait, is that by Dr. Dre or Dr. Dre?
By Dr. Dre.
20 things, but you forgot to ask?
Goes by a shortened version of his name.
Afraid to ask?
Applied to register it as a
What
trademark.
is that thing?
But the music star objected, arguing the public would be confused and assume a connection between the two. However, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office dismissed the objection, saying consumers will be able to distinguish between the 53-year-old musician and the medical doctor who's a public speaker on women's health issues. Said the rapper failed to show that a connection would be presumed in the mind of the consuming public when the applicant's Dr. Dre, D-R-A-I, marks are used in connection with its applied for goods.
Did
and
Dr.
services.
Dre even know about this suit? I mean, this sounds like something that the lawyers create in order to give themselves work and get paid. It sounds like total BS to me.
You think his lawyers just sued without telling him?
No, I think his lawyers concocted this and convinced him to go along with it.
What is he the guy? Right. Does he make some money off headphones, Dr. Dre? Is he
Beats? Beats by Dr. Dre.
That's him.
Manny has a set, and oh my goodness, are they nice?
Are they really?
Yeah.
But if you lose them, you feel bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, usually it's somebody steals them from you.
Very expensive.
You work in radio then.
Uh-huh.
An Iowa man says his dog inadvertently shot him while they were roughhousing yesterday. 51-year-old Richard.
And he had his gun on him.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
51-year-old.
Good. I'm glad he got shot.
Dance, master. Dance.
51-year-old Richard Remy of Fort Dodge, Iowa, told police he was playing with his dog Balo on the couch and tossed the dog off his lap. He says when the Pit Bull Lab mix bounded back up, he must have disabled the safety on the gun in his belly band and stepped on the trigger.
So he's home and he's still packing. He's still got it.
Can never be too safe,
just
Pat.
in case somebody breaks in, he's going to be able to plug them.
Hey, Fort Dodge, Iowa, it's a very rough city.
Yeah.
I get it. Rough.
The gun fired, hitting one of Remy's legs. He was treated at a hospital, released later the day. He said Baloo is a big wuss, and laid down beside him and cried because he thought he had done something wrong.
Oh, Poochie.
Who's a good boy?
You got a pit bull, and
Lab mix.
you got the belly, the gun in your belly band, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't want him as a neighbor.
I'm guessing there's no Mrs. Remy.
Well, she's not mentioned in the story.
Yeah, but pit bulls are only as mean as their
I agree
owners
with
make them.
you. I agree with you.
This was a mix.
I mean, they're
Pit Bull Lab.
naturally very lovable animals.
Yeah,
They can
as
be
they're
taught to be
gnawing
a
on
little
your face.
ornerier, though.
It's the only time I've ever fully trusted my neighbor had one, and that thing would run at my kid when my kid was 4 years old at full speed, slam on the brakes, give him a big lick on the face. The most gentle animal on the planet. Meanwhile, my dad's lab would do the same thing and jump on him and attack him and roll him over. You know?
A woman is accused of breaking into a Paradise Valley home, bathing in the homeowner's bathtub, and sending tens of thousands of disturbing text messages to the man's phone after the pair went on one date. July 2017.
Tens of thousands?
I think I know her.
In July 2017, 31-year-old Jacqueline
Wait, I
Oddies-
might actually have a text right
Okay.
now. John, is it this woman?
Jacqueline what?
Oddies
Okay.
was found parked outside the victim's home, according to police. The man also accused her of repeatedly texting him, despite him saying he no longer wanted to talk with her. Officers
Can't
found
imagine
After the
why.
first couple of thousand texts, he decided, maybe not.
Why didn't he block her? You can block her. It's no big deal.
Officers found Oddies still outside the victim's home when they arrived and told her to leave. Shortly after, the man started getting threatening text messages from the suspect. Police received a similar report in December, but officers couldn't find the woman. Then on April 8th this year, the victim called a detective saying he was out of the country but saw Oddies in his home while checking his home surveillance video.
That's commitment.
When officers got there, the woman indeed was in his house taking a bath.
Wow.
A large butcher knife was discovered on the passenger seat of her car, according to court paperwork.
Glenn Close.
This sounds like true love.
Hey,
to
boiled
me.
bunnies?
This is love. He should just give in
That's
the love.
right. She's never going to leave his side.
She was taken
He
into
will be
custody.
loyal forever.
I got a hunch that first date wasn't platonic. She feels like she was owed something.
I'm not going to be ignored, Dan.
Well, she was taken into custody and charged and then released from jail.
Uh-oh.
And guess what she started doing?
Texting.
Sending more text messages, these becoming a little more threatening. The victim called authorities to report receiving the multiple threatening text messages from her. Man also explained that they had met originally on a dating website, and after one date, Oddies began stalking and harassing him. All told, 65,000 text messages to the man's phone.
He should have went with "It's just lunch."
Yes.
He should have
I think
went
so.
with
That's
"It's
a
just
reputable.
lunch." Yes.
Just take that.
And you can tell if somebody's crazy, and you don't have to do it. And they kind of try to filter you out.
They try to filter out the boiled rabbit
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
It wasn't one of those farmers only babes, was it? Because my girls don't do that.
In one of Ada's messages, she said,
I
"Don't
thought you were
ever,
a Forest Lake Girls Only.com.
Oh, wouldn't that be awesome?
don't ever try to leave me." She texted, "I'll kill you, and I don't want to be a murderer." She also said in one text she wanted to wear his body parts and bathe in his blood.
Wow.
Ed Gein.
Wow.
Well, she did say she doesn't want to be a murderer.
Let's get her committed here.
But
let's
that was
not
an-
just keep releasing her. Let's
Yeah.
let her spend some time in a lockup.
I think that was an autocorrect problem. She said, "I just want to bathe in your tub," but it changed it to blood.
Yeah.
She was arrested again this Tuesday, charges of threatening, stalking, and harassment. Wow. So hopefully, Patrick, yes.
Yeah,
She'll
I
get
think
a
so.
little
I think she'll get a little. Get her on the meds. Get her on the meds. All right,
Sounds
Johnny.
like true love to me.
Okay.